Hello, everybody. James here. Storytime with Dutch episode. I don't know what episode it is. We'll figure it out when it comes out. But I'm going to do some quick plugs first. I'm going to throw it to the Dutchman himself and our special guest. First off, I've got two books. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, The People's Champion, available on Amazon. Owen, Hart, King of Pranks, available on Amazon. Two fine biographies. Dutch has got two books as well. The World According to Dutch, available from Amazon. Tales from a Dirt Road, available from Amazon. And if you want them signed, go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with two L's at gmail.com, and you can negotiate your price with the Dutchman himself. But for now, I'm going to introduce Dutch, and he will introduce our guest.
Well, here is the long-awaited edition with Mr. Jack Swagger. Jack, how you doing?
Hello. Well, I'm doing a lot better now that I'm with you. That's for sure.
Well, I got up this morning. Now, the last time, if you'll recall, we had Jack all standing by, and I got up to walk around my desk, and I don't know whether I tripped over a loose cord, which is they're all over the place. I took the biggest bump I've taken in my life. Almost broke my arm, had to go to the ER. My arm's not broken, but it's not the same as it was before. So, and Jack, what do you think? We just skipped out on you or what? You didn't know anything, did you?
I thought you were trying to have one of those crazy threesomes again that you like to do. Only missing the two other women.
And guys. So, hey, you can't say that. You can't say that anymore. Hey, listen, I'm glad to have you here, Jack. And I want to ask you something. We had a recent loss in the wrestling world. Jay Briscoe had an accident and he died. Did you know him?
I knew him briefly. The wrestling world is a small world, and one way or another, we all end up working together. From the time I had with him, it was incredible. I mean, you were on the trip with us. We went to Puerto Rico. It was you and me going down there, working Alberto del Rio.
Yeah, your old buddy.
Yeah. But I tell you what, besides getting to go to the island that you made with you, hanging out with Jay and his brother Mark, I had a great time with them, and really impressed me as humans.
Yeah. And that's the only time I ever met him either, was that trip to Puerto Rico we made. What was that, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yep. It must have been 2017 or 2018. One of those years. But
well, Jack, for the people who are not familiar with you, I just want to run down part of your background. You're from Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
And what town are you in? I mean, you don't live there now.
I moved to Perry, Oklahoma when I was 4 years old. And Perry is the wrestling capital of the world. Did you know that?
It is? No, I didn't know that. Because of Danny Hodge?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yep. It's called that because we have more state championships in wrestling than any other sport, than any other school in the country.
Yeah, I was telling James earlier, I said Oklahoma is a huge wrestling state. Mm-hmm. Huge. And it's big for professional wrestling too, because I made a tour through there one time. Great fans.
Yeah.
We'd go to talk, but long trips. My God. They'd be like 450 milers. You know, you heard of those pills? They used to call them the little white pills. They were called LA turnarounds.
Uh-huh.
Hate to say that we were taking them, but we were taking them like buckets of them to stay awake.
But you were taking them up your rectum, though, right?
You don't have to tell everything you know, Jack.
Oh, okay.
Please.
I'm sorry.
Keep some things secret. But anyway, and you went to the University of Oklahoma, correct?
Correct. I graduated in 2006.
All-American?
All-American in wrestling at heavyweight, 2006. Yep. Pretty good class that year. Cain Velasquez, I believe, was third. Steve Mako was second. I think all 8 All-Americans that year went on to fight MMA and have pretty good careers in it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So And is that how you met? How did you? I don't know how to couch this, but how did you get started in pro wrestling? Were you a pro wrestling fan?
I was a little bit.
Yeah.
I was a wrestling fan more than anything. Any form I could get my hands on, I would do. In seventh grade, that's when the Monday Night Wars were happening, and I became a big WCW guy. I didn't like WWE at the time. I was all WCW, all NWO, too sweet.
So, who found you? Jim Ross found you.
Yeah, I met Jim because I was a football player at OU, and through like some of my college roommates and whatnot, we'd go to Jim's house, and Jerry Briscoe would be there, and we would all have dinner and hang out and watch football and whatnot. And we just became friends over the years. And like over time, I think I was like a sophomore. It was like my third year at Oklahoma. They said, if you ever want to try WWE, finish your degree and then give us a call. And so that's exactly what I did. I got my degree. Mm-hmm. I called them. I interviewed for like 6 months for a job in finance. This is right before the big crisis happened. So I'm glad I didn't go into finance. And I called them.
But it was very close between finance and wrestling. Didn't you interview for a job and got it?
Yep. And
then WWE called.
Well, I interviewed for a job, and I just wasn't happy with it. And so I called Jerry. I was like, let me do a tryout. He set up a tryout for me at Deep South in McDonough with Bill DeMott and Jody Hamilton. Mm-hmm. And went out there for a week. I had the job afterwards. It was my first time ever to see a pro wrestling ring, touch it, physically get in it, do any type of maneuver inside of it. But of course, I'm a natural. That's why you like me, because I'm good at everything.
Yeah.
And they offered me a job. And then I'm supposed to show up on June 1st in Dallas, Texas at this finance firm. And I call them instead of showing up and be like, oh, I'm not taking the job. I'm going to be a pro wrestler. And they were like,
what did they say? Did you tell them you're going to be a pro? Did you tell them you're going to be a pro wrestler?
Yeah, I did tell them I was going to be a pro wrestler.
And what did they say?
They started cursing at me. You know, they're from Texas. They don't have very much manners down there. So they started cursing at me. No, they wished me the best, but my parents were really, really shocked. You should have seen how my dad looked at me. He was like, "What?" I don't know.
Wow.
But now he's my biggest fan.
Yeah. Well, I remember you telling me some of these stories, and that I heard some of them, and some of them I was passed out from those long ass trips we used to make. But and I don't know if I've asked you this before, and I don't know if I've told you this before, Jack, but I want to thank you for the way you treated me when I went to WWE, because I was way, way advanced in my career. I shouldn't even have had a job, to tell you the truth. But being with you, I had the most fun I ever had in the wrestling business, because you were hilarious. You listened to my bullshit. We go up and down the road. You take care of me, pull me up to my hotel, kick me out, and tell me you pick me up tomorrow. So you really took care of me. I don't know if I ever thanked you, but I want to thank you publicly, because if it hadn't have been for you, I couldn't have done it. I just couldn't have done it. But I never thanked you, but I'm thanking you right now publicly. I thank you for the way you took care of me.
Wow, Dutch, that really means a lot to me. Thank you so much, brother. You're a friend, and I look up to you. And you helped me through some sticky situations, and you helped me, in not so sticky situations. So it's.
Well, I really enjoyed being with you. Since we've got that out of the way, let me ask you, when I first showed up.
How the hell am I supposed to be mean to you now after you say that, by the way?
I don't know. You can't. And then you'll be a bigger asshole than you already are. But when I showed up in WWE, I still remember the date, February the 11th, I think.
Yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
Did you know me from Adam's House Cat?
No, I feel like I knew the name, like Dutch Mantell kind of sounds like a wrestling name. So I was like, oh yeah, I know that wrestler, but not really.
Had they
Somebody
said
pulled
it?
me.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. Somebody pulled me aside and smartened me up on who you were and what you had done. So
Had they mentioned anything about me coming in and being put with you and managing you? Had they said anything at all about that?
they didn't really tell me a whole lot. And then they kind of just that day, I feel like said, "Hey, we want to give you a mouthpiece, give someone to go out there with you."
Well,
Right?
oh yeah, that's what they told me too. And I went, but when I first went there, they didn't tell me anything about you. I thought they wanted me because they wanted me to go to NXT. That's what I actually thought. And then when I got
Oh,
down there, I talked to Triple H first,
mm-hmm.
and he says, "Listen, we're trying to get a guy to talk for or to be the mouthpiece, like they told you, for Swagger." And to tell the truth, I knew who you were, but I didn't know a lot about you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen pictures and a few things, and I said, well, hell, I needed a job anyway. I don't give a shit if they're going to put me with Humpty Dumpty. I didn't give a crap. But they put me with you, which was a blessing, I find out now. And the first night we walked out in Nashville, and they gave us the We the People gimmick.
Yeah.
And halfway through that promo, I started to feel the people.
Mm-hmm.
They started to move a little bit because back then that was the start of the Tea Party movement, and they wanted something to kind of catapult off that. And I think we hit it right on because then they started to move. We would do that. I want every real American to please rise and put your hand over your heart and say along with us, we the people. And not many of them stood up that night because they didn't know what we were doing. But by the second week and the third week, they were all standing up.
Everyone.
And I remember, and you'll remember this too, people telling me, oh, people are going to hate you. People are going to hate you guys.
You remember the reaction? So many mainstream newscasters were on their programs crying. Glenn Beck was one of them. They said that they were like, they're not going to take this from us. You're not going to take this from the Tea Party type deal. God, we had them.
Yeah, they were right there. I can't imagine if they could do something like that today, which they're afraid to do.
Yeah,
it'd be hot. But even when we went to Europe, we would say, "I want every real American," and half of them would stand up.
Yeah,
I tell a story about when I went to Manchester when I said, "I want every Englishman to please rise," and that was different. They went, "Englishman." They all stood, put your hand over the heart, and say along with us, "God save the Queen." The place come in. The place come in.
Yeah.
So you could still, that interview I did in Wales.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me tell the people, every time that Jack and I did a live show, they would always tell us, listen, right before your match, do a promo. And we did that. Nobody else did it. And they would put us out there every night and we would do a promo and then we would have the match because they found the promo very entertaining. And one night we were in Wales. And remember, Jack, what I used to do? I said, "Oh, it's great to be in Scotland tonight." And then you go, whisper in my ear, we're not in Scotland. We're in Wales. I said, "What?"
Really, I said, Wales? Wrap it up.
Yeah, get that. Like they're going to pull the little cane out there and yank us off the stage. And I say, Wales, like the Wales at Disney World or whatever. No, Wales, a country. Oh. And then the people, they'd start booing, and then we would get on them. And I would tell them if they didn't start booing, I was going to send you out there to beat shit out of each and every one of them. But I really had fun doing that. That was fun.
It was incredible. And it really exploded from the moment And I think we understood how big it was, but WWE didn't understand how big it truly was because one, you have this guy coming out, crazy looking mustache, and you would light them up, you'd lay into their country, and you would say these things purposely to get them mad at you. And then it didn't matter because no matter what you said, they would stand up at the end of it and put their hand over their heart and say along with you. So it was really incredible. And I can remember so many nights in that first couple of weeks, we would go through the back and be like, Dutch, you said this. And then they still said, we the people with us.
Yeah. And I think the people in a lot of ways were smarter than we were. They were smarter than WWE Creative. But it was a fun gimmick to do. I tell a story one time. Remember when we went down on the border in Mexico? And what was the guy's name who was our security? What was his name? Remember him?
Jimmy or Scott?
Maybe it was Scott. But he didn't go with me one night. And those Spanish-speaking people, they were cussing me like a dog. I know enough cuss words in Spanish to know they weren't saying, we love you, Dutch. They were saying, ain't gonna kill you, chingo tu madre. And, it's chingo tu madre. If you speak Spanish, you know what it is. But even if you don't, they say it in such a way that it sounds horrible. Chingo tu madre. You say, damn, that can't be good.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were coming over that railing at me. So I went to the back and I said, Scott, where were you? And because he didn't go out with me one night. He said, why? I said, those people out there are trying to get me. He said, oh, bullshit. They're not going to do nothing to you. I said, let me tell you one thing, Scott. If they bother me and I get hurt, you're getting fired. The next night he went with me and he saw how they acted. It was another town on the border. Yeah. He said, you're not kidding, are you? And I said, no, I wasn't kidding. Why would I kid about that? I need you, man. But they were, because a lot of our whole push was against immigrants sneaking across the border. Vince loved that.
Yeah.
They would tell me sometimes, they said, in this interview, do the little sneaking across.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because Vince, and he said, I always roll those R's when you say Alberto del Rio.
Yeah.
They said he loved that too. And they said, whatever you do this and roll the R's, you're fine.
And then if that's your real name, he loved that one too.
If that is your real name. Yeah. Okay, what was Alberto del Rio's? What was his manager's name?
Ricardo Rodriguez.
Ricardo Rodriguez. He told somebody, he didn't say you, but he said me. He said, he's really racist. Mm-hmm. I went, what? Because he believed we sold him that we hated Mexicans. Mm-hmm. And so that's doing your job. If you can convince the people you work with that you're really racist. Of course, I'm not racist. I hate racist people. I hate them. I only hate two types of people, racist and Mexicans.
He's kidding.
That's a joke, people. That's a joke, people. That's a joke. A racist would say, that's what I got. Watch a guy here called Gutfeld, and he'll say something like that every night. He'd say a misogynist would say, that's to keep the people off him. But anyway, I had a great time with you.
Yeah, Ricardo should go back and watch that video that we did for Glenn Beck, because I don't think we get enough credit for it. We had everyone worked. In this day and age, we had everyone worked, and then we go and do that video and we turn off the green screen, and then you break character and you start really laying it into them. I mean, I need to get that video and put it out there more, because
no, it's still up.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube somewhere. I saw it not too long ago.
You see, Glenn, that is what you call.
What was that, James?
Sorry, I'm jumping in. Who pitched that to you originally, the Glenn Beck
tell that story,
promo?
Dutch.
Oh, the Glenn Beck story?
Yeah.
Well, put me back on. I'm talking to you, James. Creative, they had got so much response back from this little gimmick that we were doing. And like Jack said, that we were all over the late night. not late night news, but late night, the late night comedy shows. And Colbert come out there and he said, "Let me tell you one thing, Zeb Colter." Mankind was with him. Mick Foley was with him. "If that is your real name."
Wow.
And so we did that, and they said, listen, they had gotten so much heat about it. They was getting all this blowback that we were like making fun of the Tea Party, which I never even associated the Tea Party with it, to tell you the truth.
No.
But they wanted us to go on TV and tell everybody that it is a work. We wouldn't use that term, but it's a gimmick to get to say, and so they could say that we've answered all our critics. It's a storyline. So when we did that, the people left us alone, some of them, but then there was a lot of people when we go to the ring, half of them would believe it and half of them would love us. Half of them would hate us and half of us would love us. Even some of the agents used to tell me, "Oh, these fans, these people, they're going to hate you." And remember I told you, Jack, I said, "I don't think they're hating us, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
But let's don't tell them that." I don't know if I told you that, because sometimes, and I've said this before, you can be too smart for your own good. If you're telling them that the people are liking it and not hating us, they go, "Wait, we didn't plan it like that." So, but you know what one of my regrets was, and I'm sure, I don't know how you feel about this, was your angle with Rusev. That had, actually, I think about it today. You never beat him but one time, I think.
Yeah, by DQ.
We would go in these, and I'll tell you how I told her. I didn't invent this angle, but I got us put with Rusev. Little Jamie Noble. I was in the back, and he said, "Hey, what are they going to do with Jack?" And he went, "Yeah, I hadn't heard nothing." I said, "What do you mean hadn't heard nothing?" I said, "They don't have no plans." "No." I said, "No plans at all?" He said, "Well, they hadn't talked about any." I said, "Let me give you something. What about Jack? What about me and Jack intercept Rusev one night when he's waving that Russian flag?" He went, and it's like a light come on in his head. He went, "Wow, that's good. That's real good." Now he had something to pitch to him. So I said, "You hadn't thought about this before?" "No." I said, "Nobody on creative brought up the U.S. versus Russia?" "No." I said, "Well, what the fuck y'all been doing all these damn creative meetings at 3:00 in the morning? Playing checkers or what? You never thought about it?" He said, "I hadn't heard it." So the next day, I remember, he said, "I pitched that idea." He said, "It's like a light went on. God, that's good." So we started doing it. And we did this, 2 months?
Yep. We had 2 pay-per-views, 3-month feud, 2 pay-per-views.
Yeah. What a reaction to it.
Remember that first night? That first night was incredible. When we just came out and we stood in the ring with them. We had the flag. You were face to face with that evil Lana. Me face to face with Rusev. Oh man, that was a moment.
You could feel it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I tell people. Sometimes you can feel. That's what I say when a wrestler goes to the ring. He has to feel the temperature of the room. And that night in the ring with Lana and Rusev, you could feel that tension. And the people were saying, you could know what they're thinking. Okay, what's going to happen here? Because now they had a clear heel and they had a clear good guy, a clear baby face. Mm. And even though we had been heels, they kind of liked us. So they were buying this.
So we could transition. I mean, overnight we were baby faces. We were heels the day before. And because of this, because it was so electric, we were instant baby faces.
Instant, because sometimes it's not what you do first, it's what you do second. So that was our second act, and it was going good. Then I had to have that surgery, and I went home for 6 to 8 months. And when I come back, Vince, it's one of the worst ideas I've ever seen. Vince put me with Alberto Del Rio. Remember when I left, we hated him.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I come back, I forgot we was in California somewhere. And I went out. John Cena answered a challenge from him. When I walked out, everybody thought they're going to see you walking out behind me. But I introduced Alberto, and the place went. It just crashed.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, it's got over like a fart in church." And they tried going with it, but it never took off. But I had an idea for it, but I don't think Vince wanted to hear it. Hey, when you talked to Vince one-on-one, how many meetings did you have with him the whole time you were there? What year did you go to WWE?
2008. I debuted at the end of 2008 in September. I probably spoke to Vince maybe 10 times in that 9-year career. One of the times was after this. This is like I never politicked. I never tried to get out of shit, but I made it a point to go and talk to him and make sure he like knew that how I felt about this, like, you know. And I tried to get it changed, but you know, I didn't have any stroke, and so we ended up going along with it.
It was his idea.
Yeah.
So how you going to go in there? Remember, I'm saying knowing too much can work against you.
Yeah.
It's not always good. So when you went in there, what you were doing basically would be knocking his own idea back to the guy who created it. And that's not going to be appreciated. I don't think people know what I mean when I say that, but you know, it's like if you come up with an idea, then I come in and I said, that idea sucks. Well, already we're at loggerheads right there. So in your meetings with Vince, all the times you met him, how many times did you meet him? You said 10 times? And
yeah, maybe 10 times.
10 years.
I rode on the plane with him a couple times, but mostly just meetings day of TV, which are, you know, they suck. You wait outside his office for 3 or 4 hours to get in there for 5 minutes and like spit your case. And yeah.
Well, if you met him 8 or 10 times, that's like 8 times more than I met with him. Because he never really called me in there for anything. You remember the first time I did an interview in that audition? Were you in there?
I do. Let's talk about that, because I remember it as you creating We the People in the interview.
Well, I think they had the lines of it. I don't know. They had to like. They didn't have the structure of it.
You cut one promo and it was like what they wanted and it was along the guidelines, but it didn't have like a finishing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I
did that in the third one.
Yeah. And then on the third one, I felt like you just said it and everyone got goosebumps like, oh, that's so cool. And just take the credit, Dutch.
I'll take the credit. But I went down there without a job.
Yeah.
I met with Triple H. I went down there at 3:30, met with Triple H at 4:30. Yeah. I did the interview audition at 5:30.
By 6 o'clock, Carano was trying to bury you.
And Carano, folks, is the talent relations guy that's since been fired because he packed up some stuff and sent it back to who?
Mickey James.
Sent it back to Mickey James.
Yeah.
And they didn't like the way he packaged her stuff up that she had left there and ended up getting fired. But anyway, at 6:30, they hired me. At 7:30, we went out live on TV. I got hired and a gimmick and everything in about a 5-hour period. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable how the longest episode of TV in history is still run. I'm sure it's still like that. It's incredible that you were able to go out there and nail it as much as you did, knowing what you knew. Like, we just got this. Like, professional actors get it months, and you know, and you're just going out there. If you can handle live television, you can handle anything. You can handle a professional MMA fight like that, because live television is it's a living beast and it's something else. And you have so much to manage to do it. It really is hard. It's hard to explain.
You remember WrestleMania? Was it 29 in New Jersey?
Yes.
Uh, they put
Giant
us on that.
stadium.
They put us on that cart.
Remember Vince taking a photo of us?
Did he take a photo? I remember that now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember that now.
Yeah. It was all
What did he take a photo for?
because it was a rib. It was all a rib on. He wanted a photo of me driving
Yeah.
with you.
It's too much.
Still to this day, I get asked, like, why didn't Dutch do a promo before that match? Remember, they cut our intro, and I get it. It's WrestleMania time constraints, but like that was kind of like our deal. And instead, they don't show our intro, right? You didn't do a promo.
I did do a promo.
Oh, you did.
I did, and that's when Donald Trump was in the. He was a guest in the guest boxes up there in the stadium.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I did it. I did a long one, actually.
He was ringside. He sat behind
Was
my
he?
wife. Yeah, my wife got a picture with him.
I didn't know that. I'm so blind. I don't see nothing anyway.
Yeah.
So I'll tell this story. Jack, after the match, you got beat again. We're going back.
I swear I'm tough.
People saying, yeah, Dutch, Jack, yeah. And others saying, hey, fuck you guys. Sounds like we were in the middle. We got in the back. Remember, we were sitting watching the rest of the show on the big screen TV with all the other talent that either hadn't gone out or they had already finished up. And Donald Trump came in. Remember, his sons were first, then Donald, then the daughter. What's her name, Ivana? Or is that his wife? Ivanka. And then he disappeared. And then about 2 minutes later, I felt a peck on my shoulder. You may not have been there. I think I was there with Damien Sandow. A peck on my shoulder, and I look up, and it's Donald Trump. And he said, I loved it. I loved it. Tremendous. He says everything twice. Tremendous, tremendous. And shook my hand and walked off. That was the most surreal thing I have ever done or ever happened to me in my life was Donald Trump. He was in the arena that night and coming back and actually shaking my hand because he heard that interview. And I was talking about the filthy streets of New York and all these people speaking different languages.
But he understood we the people. He understood the message.
Oh, he understood that. He liked it. Yeah. He was a big fan of it. So, but that was just another thing. I tell that story all the time anyway. Okay, Jack, I've been promoting this story. We went somewhere out in the Midwest, and I think it was Lubbock, Texas.
Mm.
And we're leaving the arena that night. Dark as hell and raining a little bit. I remember that. And it was something about we were trying to, you said they got a really good price, but I didn't get the price. And he said, I don't know why. And I was trying to call the hotel. We were on the phone. We were already on the interstate.
That's
and
right.
You had turned left. We got on the interstate and you were trying to look at the piece of paper and I was trying to look at it. And we look up and there was an 18-wheeler on the wrong side of the road coming right at us. If it had been 3 or 4 seconds more that we saw that truck, it killed us. He was flying too, buddy.
Yeah. We had enough time to say,
did I make that
I remember
up?
it. Yeah. We had enough time to look up, see the headlights, and say,
get over.
Those headlights look funny.
Oh my God. And we were speechless. I couldn't talk for like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how close you can come to death out there on this highway. It's a damn wonder more wrestlers haven't been killed on some of these trips and what's happened already.
Right. I mean, it's always a thing in pro wrestling. I don't know why to make the town at nighttime. Like instead of getting a good night's sleep, getting a workout in the morning, getting breakfast, and then getting on the road and driving during the day, where you can see sights or just see in general and drive safer. But it's always been a thing. You got to make it at nighttime.
Jay, I got to ask you this. They sent us to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And they was going to take some pictures of us.
Oh my gosh. How many fights did you get in?
We could have got in a bunch if we'd wanted to.
Yeah, we could have.
I don't know what happened this day, and I'm trying to piece it together, but I went back to the truck first, or the car, with an SUV, and there was a guy that pulled up.
What are those called? The bicycle with the seat?
It wasn't a bicycle. It was like a motorbike with two seats behind it.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But the driver had apparently pulled in and cut him off a little bit, and he was pissed off. And he said, "Hey, you better tell that driver." I said, "Won't you tell him you fucking self?" Now, there was no need for me to say that. I didn't even know him.
Yeah.
He said, "What'd you say?" I said, "What, are you deaf?" And that's another smart ass remark. I said, "Hey, buddy, you're pushing your luck." And then we went to do something, and we come back, and he was coming back from whatever. He had two people with him, a man and a woman, probably from Dubuque, Iowa, that had come to Washington to see the sights.
Here you are at the Lincoln Monument.
Oh, yeah. We saw it all at the inflection pool. Yeah. We saw that. And Lincoln Monument, we saw that. So we come back, and you had stayed with the guy for a second. I went back to the car a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And when you came back, me and this guy are arguing again. And he said, "Hey, I didn't appreciate what you said." I said, "I don't give a shit what you appreciate. I don't know why I did it. I'm just messing with him." He said,
"The line that really,
you're going to keep."
The line that really jazzed him up was you told him that "Hey, I'll pull this driver off of you when he gets done or something."
Yeah, I says, "Hey, you're going to start a fight with the driver, and I'd hate to pull him off you." Oh my God, he got hot as hell. And then you walking up.
Yep. And so we got like a Chevrolet Tahoe or Suburban as a car. And I'm walking up, and Dutch has the back driver's side passenger door open, and he's standing inside the car. So he's taller than the guy.
And I said, "Jack, beat this guy up or something." Oh my God. And finally, the people that he had taken around, they were looking at him and said, "What the hell are you guys doing? What's the matter with you guys?" And we laughed, and I said, "Hey, good thing you were warned." I got the last word on him all the way around, but I will never forget that. How easy it is just to start an argument, just being a smart ass. Yeah. Crazy. So,
well, he was already worked at.
I was going to say, how often were you two recognized when you were out doing these photo things together? Were you like people mobbing you all the time, or what?
Not really mobbing us, but they knew who we were. You know, when you take cameras around with you, they think you're somebody, and people recognize us. Yeah, they do.
I'd say at least once or twice a day, you get mobbed, or not mobbed, but just somebody comes up.
We get. All right, Jack. I'm just looking at some of my notes I made here. So you left WWE to go into MMA.
Yep.
How do you like MMA? How do you like that?
I like it. I am from a wrestling background, so the hard training is really who I am. That's how I became a two-time Oklahoma high school state champion. That's how I became an All-American. That's how I became worthy of riding next to Zeb Colter all those years. So I really liked it. And it was at a point for me where I was kind of burned out from the road. It was 9 years at that time of pretty much nonstop being on the road. Like my son was 8 at the time. Half of his life, I was gone. And so I had developed habits. I was drinking way too much, drinking every day. And I really, I couldn't stop. And so the MMA was great for me to get back to the hard training, and I felt like get back to who I was. And the training sucks. Getting punched in the face in practice sucks. Getting your arm pulled out of socket,
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
It sucks. But you know what's fun, Dutch, is in the real fight when that cage door closes and all of a sudden all that hard work that you put in directly comes out as your performance and as your success. That's the fun part. And I'd be smiling in there every time because I knew I'd put in the work. And honestly, it was fun just punching people in the face.
What is your record now?
Well, technically, I'm 3-0, but really, I should be 4-0. I'm 3-0-1. A couple.
I saw that fight.
Yeah, I still do not admit to hit him in the nuts. I know, in fact, in all three of those shots, I did not hit him in the nuts. Yet he went down. He was working the judges. He was laying there.
Bastard.
And as he's getting out of the ring, he
looks to me. Did he wink at you when he was down? Did he go?
Yeah, he did. And he goes, rematch, as he's walking out of the fucking ring. I lost. Yeah. But
he was a big fat bastard too. Hey, can you say that nowadays? You can't say anything about anybody being fat. But he was a fat guy. He was a compared to you, he was fat.
Yeah.
You were
nowadays fat's a compliment, It's like bizarre world. Oh, thank you.
What do you weigh now?
I'm about 230, 235. My wife calls me skinny. Yeah.
But you were heavier than that WWE.
Yeah, I was 250, 260. I've been sober now over a year, so I've definitely lost a lot of weight on that aspect, but just easier to living. I work 1 day a week with AEW, and so I'm at home, I'm sleeping better, I'm eating better, and I'm working out better. It just makes sense.
Just had a great idea. I want you to contact.
Yes.
Who are the two brothers, the Paul brothers? Who's the one that does the fighting?
Oh, the Long brother. Oh,
the Paul brothers.
Yeah.
Which one does the fighting?
Jake Paul. I think they both do, right? One's a boxer and now one's going to go into MMA or something.
Who is the one who says that Dana White pays like shit?
That's Jake.
Yeah. And the guys that work for him, I mean, he's made guys millions of dollars just with one fight. I don't know. I guess it draws that well.
Yeah.
But he's come out and I think is he trying to start a different MMA outfit or has he already started it?
So I think he signed with PFL, Professional Fight League, and they air on NBCs, and they're the ones that have Kayla Harrison at 155. She's like their big draw. They do the tournament where you can win $1 million. And so I don't think he's going to be in their tournament. I think he's just going to do like a one-off and help promote that event type deal. But I know in the contract, he talked about how he wanted to create health insurance for fighters or something.
Well, he talks a good game.
Yeah, he talks a good game.
When you were in WWE, were there ever any talk of a union getting started?
See, that's a good question because while I was there, that was like the 4-letter word that you never
don't say it.
Yeah, they were like, don't talk about your contract and don't talk about anything having to do with a union. Otherwise, you'll get blacklisted by the upper ups.
And it would have happened.
Oh yeah, I saw it happen. Someone I can't remember exactly, but like they were complaining about something and they were talking about how we should all get together and get some power. And I'm like, it's not that company.
I've argued with people. They said, well, they need a union. I said, yeah, they may need a union. They may, but this union would only be good there. I don't know where else they're going to go because maybe some of these guys, when they finish there, they go on the independents. The independents are not going to join the union. they can't compete and they can't make any money if they're paying union dues and all this. They can't pay that.
Yeah.
So you would just have one company under a union banner that's good there and isn't good nowhere else. Yeah. I mean, you still got ways you can go about things, but that's why most guys do their business to themselves and don't care about the next guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the biggest thing with those WWE contracts is they can cancel them anytime. And they've proven that they will. So what does it all really mean if you can't rely on it?
Well, the old contracts were all for WWE or WWF.
Right.
It benefited
every lawyer would tell you that.
It benefited the performers zero, basically.
Zero. You sign your life away.
One of the early contracts that I signed back in the 90s, you either signed it or you didn't go to work, period. But if you read that, I should pull that contract out and see what it exactly said. But you know how much you were guaranteed per year?
How much?
$1,500. And after that, they had fulfilled their monetary duties, and they can actually block you from working an independent show or block you from doing anything else while at the same time starving you.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it was. Yeah. And you either sign it or you don't.
And it proves the point, back then, and even when I was there with you, we didn't have any options. There was only one game in town. And, now we have AEW. And so hopefully the competition makes everything better for the performers. And I think you will see that with contracts, because you have more options, and even overseas seems like they're paying a little bit better now too.
Well, since you brought up AEW, which I was going to bring up, by the way, how long you been there?
4 years. Yep. Flew by.
So, but I don't see you on TV that much. Do you ever make SmackDown? I mean, I only watch SmackDown. I don't watch the others.
Dynamite.
I don't watch Dynamite. I was getting to it.
Yeah, but we have a big roster there. And
how big is the roster?
It's a good question. I'm not sure.
I heard 180.
I mean, that seems like a lot, but I feel like we have more than 80 for sure. I feel like we have over 100. And so like a lot of the storylines are rotated every other week. If you notice, if you watch it. But right now I don't have to work that much, and I get paid the same. So it's a great benefit for me. And then I don't have to get overdone, overblown, and overused. And the people still like me, and they need every reason to still like me at this age, because I'm just not entertaining.
Well, let me ask you this. They say, I hear, Tony Khan called me about a month ago just to say
Tony
hello.
Khan called you.
Called me. Well, he called me a son of a bitch, but he called. That's not the point. But no, he called and asked what I was doing and how I was coming along. And I said, good. And he was about a 5-minute conversation. He would just, and I would never expect Tony Khan to call me, but he did, because I met him one time. I met him in Jacksonville. That's where he's from. I guess that's where he lives. WWE was in Jacksonville. We were doing the military show.
Okay, yep.
That's where you got the DQ with with Rusev. That's why I remember it. I remember it because you got the DQ, and I went, what the hell? And
we all got yelled at. Said ruined his WrestleMania.
Oh yeah. So, and that's when Tony was there, and I was in the back, and he came up and introduced himself, and he said his dad owned the Jacksonville Jaguars, which actually had a pretty good team this year in the NFL.
Yeah, that a good.
And you know why they had a good team? The quarterback, Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, my old school. He did a good job with them.
Oh man,
he did a great job.
Watch him play.
I think you might see a Super Bowl in Jacksonville if they keep that guy and build around him.
Yeah,
I
I think
mean,
so too. That was a great draft pick for them. And if
did you go to
anything,
the game?
no, I've been to a game, but I didn't go to the playoff game.
Well, it was a great game. I was watching it.
Yeah, it was.
And not that game, but the game who did they kick the field goal and win? They were behind 27-0, right?
Yep.
And
I
he
went to
brought
sleep.
them back. Huh?
I went
Oh,
to
yeah.
sleep.
But I didn't. I sat up there and I said, I don't know. Trevor was playing, and I'm a bigger Trevor fan than I am a Jacksonville fan, but I pushed some success, and he brought the team back. When you throw 4 interceptions in the first half and you lose a fumble, that's 5 turnovers in one half. It's unheard of. I've never heard of a team coming back, and they won 31-30. Great game. Now I'll sit back and I went like this. What the hell? But
That's
they
probably
did
the
it.
best playoff game this season so far.
It probably was.
Yeah.
So how is Tony? How does Tony treat the talent?
I think AEW is a great organization that treats their talent like adults. They treat us like humans. We have rights. It's not just like a high school who's cool and who's in trouble type deal. And I think that all starts with Tony. I think that direction is so strong throughout the company where he wants good people working with them more than anything. Really shines bright, at least in my eyes. And so I feel very welcome there. I feel like I'm wanted there. I never feel like, you know, do you value me type deal. And we're all like, hey, let's face it, we're all Mariah Carey, we're all artists here, and we all need to be reaffirmed that we're good and that we're wanted. So it's nice to have that and to work for them. And so I feel like it's a big change
So,
from the other
so does Tony do that? Does he call meetings, and does he do that? He put you guys over and make you feel good about yourselves and good about working there?
I think not so much in the meetings, but just in how we're treated there. Like that time where that first time that we worked together and Undertaker was backstage, and then we were like, all right, let's get on the road. And I was like, well, they kind of want us to stick around. And you were like, brother, you can learn more from me in 5 minutes rolling down the road than watching this crap.
And they never said a word about it, did they?
Never, because you weren't wrong. You were right. And so there, like if you're going to be a little bit late, it's not a big deal. If you need to leave a little bit early, it's not a big deal. If you're done for the day and you're tired and you want to go. So it's just kind of like little things like that where you're not going to get in trouble for being a human. So,
well, okay, Tony, AEW has how many shows?
We have 4. We have Dynamite, Rampage on television, and then we have Dark and Elevation streaming.
Okay. And who books all those shows?
Tony does the booking. Yep, he does the most of the booking. I work with Chris on everything he does, and Chris writes his own stuff and then works with Tony on where and how to do it.
How much do the Bucks do for their stuff? They do most of it?
I'm not sure. There's a team of like 3 or 4 people that work with Tony on all the creative. Pat Buck, QT Marshall, Sanjay, and
how does I was going to ask you something else. Since I've been hit on the head a couple 100,000 times, it left me that thought I had. But were you backstage when the CM Punk and the Buck Omega incident went down? Were you there?
No, I had already left the building.
Did you hear anything about it at all much? I'm sure you did, but can you well, let me say it. Can you say anything about it?
I'm sure I can, but I don't really want to.
All right. Okay,
I'm very
folks, this is when I hang up. We finish this interview, and then I call Jack up. I said, "All right, Jack, it's just me and you. Tell me what happened." And, yeah. But unbeknownst to you, I have my recorder. I said, "This is what Jack couldn't say last week." No, but and where do you think all that heat came from? They both wanted Tony's ear, or what?
Who knows how animosity builds and how lack of communication leads to certain things. I think it all stems from how you view things. And obviously, one person in that party was viewing things so negatively. And I don't think he was correct.
Well, when I heard about it, I said, well, that's the way wrestling used to be, except you didn't do it out in the open like that. I mean, especially on a pay-per-view, or if you had problems, you would have it on like a live show with just the guys in the back present. It was just like an in-house secret. But since it happened at a pay-per-view and all the reporters were there, and that's why it made such big news. Now they had something to run to the dirt sheets with, run in this clickbait. The real reason this happened, the real reason, and they rode that forever. But if he hadn't, and I predicted this, things were going, they were clicking for AEW right then. Everything was coming together. And if they hadn't done that little incident in the back, I think AEW, they would have really taken off. I mean, more than they are right now. They still do about a million views a week on the Rampage show, or 900,000. And people look at that and say, oh, they're down from this, that. Yeah, you're down from the original show, but drawing 900,000 people a week is not a bad number.
No.
And like
a lot of the times we're the number one show on Wednesday nights.
No kidding. And like, because that's your dirt sheets. That's your dirt sheet. Well, they're down this week. Well, you're down 10,000 people. That's nothing when you're talking about a million. I mean, hell, a lot of people may have went to the bathroom and didn't come back to their TV. It basically is what it means. But if you listen to some of these dirt sheet writers, oh my God, their product is awful. It's this, that, and the other. And the same way with Raw. If they cannot be negative with it, they can't, because they don't get any views. They don't get any clicks if they're positive.
Yeah.
You just want, because people want to read about that's why the fight did well, because it's something to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So
it gets me just as an industry that works people. I know this is a new thing where the dirt sheets are more prevalent now than ever because of the internet, and our fans love the internet and are always on there talking about wrestling, which is great. I'm glad. But at a certain point, I would like for us, or at least somebody, to start working these dirt sheet writers a little bit. Let's feed them some bullshit, and let's have it be pretty believable.
I think they've been fed some bullshit. And since you brought that up, I'm thinking this little fight between CM Punk and the Bucks, what if it turned out to be a big work?
Yeah.
They would feel so stupid. I think Meltzer has just had to come out and apologize for something somebody fed him from Japan. And he had to print a retraction. And he said he felt stupid. Well, he should have felt stupid a long time ago. But back in the day, you knew who was talking to Meltzer and who wasn't. Because sometimes he would have news that only like 3 or 4 or 5 people knew. So one of that group was talking to Meltzer, because he would never release that. And the people talking to him would never admit that. But he's been worked a lot of time. But a lot of times he was worked for the common good of him and the talent. You know who was one of the big feeders of information to Meltzer back in the day?
Who?
was Brody.
Really?
But he did it. At least he did it for big money. He did it to make his situation look bigger to the Japan people than it actually was. They say, "Oh, WWF is talking to him, and this, that, and the other," and and they'd read that because Meltzer he made a career of going to Japan.
Yeah, and that's different than like leaking storylines or whatever is about to happen, which I'd look as theft. That's intellectual property. Someone stooges that off to you, you're stealing it. So it ruins it. And this is, how we put food on the table. So it's very serious to me. On the other hand, with Brody sounds like, yeah, that's how you get a contract. That's how you do negotiations.
And I'm sure much, much more guys did that than Brody. And they would plant their own stories to make themselves look more valuable. I don't think Brody needed to plant anything in Japan because his record spoke for itself. I was on a Japanese tour, Brody. It was actually, I should have bought a ticket to see that. Because when he would hit that floor, those people would run. See, back in the day, they were scared of Brody. They were scared of Hansen. They were scared of Abdullah. Because what they do, they go over that railing, they go out in the crowd. And these people would run. They would get hurt running, and they'd fall. Because they wasn't going to do nothing to them, but they didn't know that. And here come Brody, whoosh, whoosh, and waving that chain. They'd scare the crap out of them. And hell, it would scare the crap out of me, too, if I thought this guy was going to come out, he was a wild man.
Yeah.
So, but, awesome. I just first met Bruiser Brody's wife last year for the first time.
Really?
I never knew her before. Nice lady, very, very nice lady. So, and I talked to her one time before last year, and that was the night that Brody died. I called her up, and she said, I told her that Frank had gotten hurt. I didn't tell her how much because I didn't know. I didn't want to tell her that he got stabbed. I didn't want her to unduly alarm her too much, but I told her that she needed to get to Puerto Rico like within the next day or as soon as she can. And by the time she got there, Bruiser had already passed. And she actually heard from Abdullah. She was coming into the San Juan airport and he was leaving, and they ran into each other. And they knew each other. And I never will forget this. She said, "How's Frank?" And he said, "Oh, he's gone. He's gone." And I'm thinking, wait a minute. I mean, if you knew that he was, why would you say it like that? I mean, but she'd learned about it right when she got off the plane. And she's had to live with that all these years. Nice lady, though. Very nice lady. And Frank was a nice guy. I mean, if he wasn't beating the crap out of you. I mean, Frank would go out there and literally, and this is why I'm telling you, if you ever go to Japan, some of those guys, why Abdullah got over, Stan Hansen got over, and Brody got over, was they literally beat those guys up. I mean, without killing them. I mean, they would lay the punches in, the kicks in, and that's why the guys were afraid to mess with them, because help, a guy can kick your ass working. What could he do if he really wanted to hurt you? But that's the reason they were so popular over there. And I wanted to ask Frank one time. He was supposed to be making $20,000 a week in Japan 30 years ago. You imagine that's $60,000 a week or $80,000 a week now. I mean, you wouldn't have to go there much and have a hell of an income. So, but I asked him, why did he want to come to Puerto Rico? Because Puerto Rico wouldn't pay him anywhere close to that. So it didn't make sense to me. But I think, and I'd learned all this in the last 5 years. Abdullah had a percentage there. I think they were trying to sell Frank a percentage there. And of course, I never heard this till the last couple of years. Crazy. So, and if you'd come up to me then and said, can I go to Puerto Rico? I said, no, I think you might need to stay out of Puerto Rico right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that'd be years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember that story when it happened? The Brody story?
I mean, I know the story.
You was how old were you then in 88?
6.
You were 6 years old. Well, then you didn't hear the story.
No, didn't hear the story.
Well, thanks for making me feel real old now. You were 6 years old. My
You got
God.
that bleach blonde mustache going. You don't look old.
No, that's not bleach blonde, buddy. Hey, my hair is not blonde. It's not dyed either. But I don't make sense. My hair is this color naturally. And look at this. It's crazy. It really is. I had a few more questions I wanted to ask you before I got off here, and I actually wrote these down. So you were you and Jericho. You were in the Jericho Appreciation Society.
Yes, sir.
So Jericho picked you up right when you got there, right?
Yep. I was able to be on the first episode of Dynamite. So day one. And it worked out. Tony wanted a couple other guys at first. He wanted Anthony Agogo, I believe. And then possibly he wanted Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson to be in the group. But just randomly, Chris and I were talking about this the other day, how we think it was just like it was fate. I was training for my second fight, and he was training at the same place with my coach, and we just randomly started bumping into each other. He would get done, and then I would start, or I would get done, and it'd be, his turn to work out. And so we started talking, and that's kind of what started the whole job interview process. Chris and I go way back. We've had a lot of long nights together. And so we had a history, and he knew that he could count on me. And I think he went to bat for me with Tony and said, don't give me a guy like this. Give me the guy who is this. They wanted a big, tough, scary guy. And I don't think anybody was tougher or scarier at that moment. So I really, really thank Chris for going to bat for me there and bring me into AEW.
Well, they made a good choice. When I heard you were going there. How was Mr. Cesaro when he came in?
Oh, that guy, if that's his real name. I tell you what, though, Dutch.
How's he doing?
That he's doing great. And that first night that we came together, we did a cage match. And the first time that we locked eyes and went face to face, everybody in the building 10 years later, 9 years later, still started chanting "We the People." When I debuted in 2019 and I got done, the whole crowd, 14,000 people in Washington, D.C., all chanting "We the People." And so it's something that if you wanted to, you and I could go back to that right now. It's always going to be there, and it's very special.
Somebody asked me, can you still use "We the People"? I said, yeah. They said, they have it copyrighted. I said, you can't copyright the Constitution. You can't patent that. I mean, that belongs to everybody. I can use the whole Constitution if I want to. Anybody can. But "We the People" belongs to the people. Otherwise, why say that? But and you brought up, you brought up Chris Jericho. I remember when he first started in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Oh,
tell this story.
He came in and I didn't, he had that blonde hair. What was his partner's name? Storm?
Lance Storm.
Yeah. You see, James jumps in when I try to remember names, because he knows that I can't remember him.
Sorry, it's a bad habit, Dutch. Three's a crowd. I'm sorry. Oh,
that's it. And they were so green. They had just come from Canada, and they had started independence, working their way down, and got to Smoky Mountain, and Cornette liked them, and he used them good. And they went from there, and they went to Japan, and Jericho finally worked enough. He got his break, and he's made full use of it. I'm glad for him. Never a big guy, but he was a good thinker, good talker. He could get heat. He's the type of guy I walked into a restaurant, you'd want to get up and slap the hell out of right away if he just walked in and looked at you. You know who else? Who have you met Jeff? Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, I met Jeff.
So one night we was in Orlando, and I just made up something. I said, Jeff, why don't you walk in and do that presidential heat walk? He said, what's that? I said, just walk in like, I'll beat the shit out of the first one of you stands up. And he walked in, and I didn't know he was going to do it. And he stood there, and he looked at everybody in that bar and made eye contact with them. And finally, I saw one guy said, man, but you got a problem. He started to get up, and Jeff said, oh, no, I'm playing. But it's how you present yourself on the way to the ring. That's what I've often said about WWE. The girls go to the ring and they're smiling and like Ronda Rousey, oh, I love you. Then goes in the ring. Then she tries to be a badass. Mm-hmm. Well, she just had come in smiling. They need to bring that character all the way from the door to the ring and leave with it. They don't do that there. I don't know why. I mean, WWE, they still, even though their product has gotten 100% better, they still make just basic mistakes. So, well, Jack, it's been a great interviewing you. And ladies and gentlemen, we had this scheduled, what, a month ago?
A month ago.
Yeah, we had like Jack.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but we all had Jack. He got his Zoom link. He got everything. And all of a sudden, he didn't hear anything from me. And James didn't hear anything. So both of them were sending me texts. So what happened? What happened? And I said, guys, I don't know when I told you. When did I tell you, Jack? The next day?
No, you texted me and you said that you had fallen and that you're about to go to the emergency room. And of course I go, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Are you bullshitting me? I said, no, I got to go to the emergency room. And James too, he didn't know what happened.
Yeah.
But I was laying here and going, oh, but nothing was broken, and I can still move my arm, but I do have some range of motion, but hey, I guess that's part of getting old. So you got any foreign trips planned, Jack, or are you going to stay close to home?
I think AEW is going to Manitoba in March. That's pretty foreign.
When are they going to do a European tour?
You know, we had one planned before the pandemic, and they're starting to talk about it again. So I imagine, if not 2023, I'd say 2024, we'll definitely be going to the UK.
They would do great there. In Europe, I think they would do really good. So you got any questions for me, Jack? Any that I can answer publicly?
Yes.
Here we go. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. Don't let James hear this. He'll have you with the podcast. You'll be interviewing me. So what was the question? Do you have one really?
Yeah.
You don't have one.
I can think of one really fast.
Oh, well, don't do that.
Okay.
If you got to think of one if you got to think about it, might need to leave it off. I think I asked you about all the questions I needed to ask you. I think I got it.
I want to know what the question was now. Okay.
James, you're too curious, James. How long was what, Jack? Now you got me interested.
How long is your coccyx?
Stop it. Now they're going to have to edit that. You know who watches this show? It's very high in the First Baptist Church in America.
Yeah. Now, so about 9 inches then?
Close to it. So anyway, listen, Jack, thank you very much for being on the show. James, you got any questions for Jack?
Yeah, I'm going to ask one very quickly. Where can people get a hat very similar to yours?
AEWshop.com has all the hats. So check them out on Instagram or the worldwide cobweb. I like this hat.
Yeah, you did. Hey, that got over.
Man, isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's simple. You said, I like this hat. Purple hat. You wear it. Yeah, they like it. Because if you like it, they'll like it. Any more questions, James? And we'll shut this thing down.
I did have one, but it was a bit of a more in-depth question. Do we have time for a couple of minutes?
Sure.
Paul Heyman. When Paul Heyman stole Cesaro and the whole thing, do you remember the whole sort of like... Because I know Dutch has talked about it for me, and then it was completely nonsensical that all of a sudden Paul Heyman would take Cesaro. Yeah. Do you remember at the time like there being some sort of like massive story that was going to come out of that didn't?
Massive story coming out?
Yeah, sort of like a long-term story arc rather than Vince McMahon just saying, yeah, I want Cesaro to go with Heyman now.
So here's the thing. At that time, Claudio, Antonio, whatever his name is, he was on fire. He was super hot. But also, we the people were really like coming together. I think they put us together in the summer of 2013, and this was the day after Mania in New Orleans in 2014. And Dutch mentioned his biggest regret. I would say this was my biggest regret is in this moment. We were all ringside. We were there with Triple H, and he was explaining to us what was happening. I didn't say anything, and I wish I would have. I knew that once you change one dynamic of the group, that it was all going to change. But it's what they wanted. They wanted Antonio to be a big star for them, even though Vince constantly put his thumb on Claudio by doing stupid stuff that would get him over, like taking away the giant swing. They literally told him not to do the giant swing. And so this was their way of like shooting him to the moon, putting him with Paul Heyman and taking him away from us. And you know, it could have been good, I guess, but it was just so overnight and forced that it was going to take time, and they weren't going to give it any time, you know. And it's just one of those things where, once again, they didn't know how big we the people were or how big it was, and they wanted to take it away or they wanted to stop it because we were getting too popular, which they didn't want. And then they wanted to go with him, dude, he was having 5-star matches with all of their company guys. He was having amazing matches with You Can't Bleed Me, and it was good. He was hot, and you know, but it just wasn't the right move. They wanted it, but
they told me they wanted to put him with Heyman to get some heat on him. I went,
yeah,
and 4 weeks later they dropped it. I think putting him with Heyman hurt him.
It did, 100%.
And now he's back on his own again. He's back in the same spot where he started.
Yeah,
he was. Hey, you guys made a great tag team.
Yeah, we did.
A great tag team.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun to work together. I mean, he's a great wrestling mind in general. The ideas that he would come up with were awesome, and I really got to piggyback on them and just go out there and have fun.
Well, it was fun for me just to stand outside the ring and watch you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys work together so well.
We got to tell this story as well since we're here. Like, still to this day, Goldust and I, anytime we're wrestling or anytime we were out there, we always say to him, and we always go, look at him, he's all blowed up, because Dutch used to stand on the outside of the ring during these matches, and I'd be hungover or whatever, and all tired, and he would just go, look at him, Jack, he's all blowed up in the ring.
And he would say, shut up. Shut up.
Well, for the record, Goldie wasn't hungover. I was hungover. Goldie.
Oh, yeah. But he would be huffing and puffing. Oh, I would embarrass him. And he'd laugh about it later. But he said, and he was blowed up. I said, look at him, Jack. He's all blowed up. You out of shape bastard.
So if anyone's listening to this and you get to meet Goldust, say, look, Goldie, you look all blowed up.
Yeah. But that's another good guy.
Yeah,
Hey, what was your relationship with Cody there? Good?
I like Cody. I thought he did a good job as an executive. He was a gatekeeper. He had to lead men a little bit, which is tough to do. You can't. It's not like college football, you know. Once you're in the pros, it's a little bit different when it comes to leading men. I feel like, and he did all right there.
Well,
I don't have anything bad to say about him. He always treated me well, and we had a great match for the TNT title together.
so you don't have anything bad to say about him? James, write this down. Never invite Jack back on the show. He has nothing to say bad about anybody. How are we going to make the clickbait stuff? You got to say bad stuff about people. No, but I am glad his interviews are starting to click now a little bit on the WWE. And I think they are positioning him for the title. What I was afraid if Vince, this is what I'm going to say bad, if Vince had stayed in charge, Cody would have took off initially the run, then they drop it because Vince didn't feel right about it. He didn't like it. And all of a sudden he'd be gone.
Yeah, who knows what his whims are, but his whims were incorrect and wouldn't give it the time or whatever it needed to get over. So, but we'll see.
Well, Jack, if we was on a trip right now, I'd start telling you all kind of Vince stories, but we'll save that for another time, another place. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is our long-awaited episode with Jack Swagger. Now going, you go by Jake Hager now?
Jake Hager is my real name.
And you go by that now?
Yep. Follow me on Instagram, real Jake Hager, on Twitter, real Jake Hager.
Okay.
And, OnlyFans, real Jake Hager.
When are you going to write your book?
I think a couple more years. I'm trying to figure out what I want to say.
All right. Well, when you get ready to do your book, tell me. I know how to print your book. Don't cost you hardly anything.
Well,
you know how I do mine? I do by Amazon, print on demand.
Yeah.
See, before you'd have to go out and buy 5,000 copies or 1,000 copies or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you don't got to do that.
Yeah.
You just, if you have anything to say, you want to write a book, go to Amazon, and when it's approved, it's called print on demand. So you can actually make an order on Amazon for one book, and they'll print it. So they control the inventory, and you just get the royalty off of it. Not a bad idea. So listen, let's get out of here. Listen, Jack, go work out, win some fights, mention my name, do anything you want to. A pleasure having you. And when are you going to come see me?
Yeah, let's get together next week. You want to go shoot some guns?
Oh, that's violence.
Oh,
a gun.
Okay.
Gun. You shoot guns? Do you hunt?
Yeah, well, in Florida, I go pig hunting.
Can you do that here?
Yeah,
you can't go pig hunting in Florida.
Yeah, they run wild. All you got to know is somebody with land, and you can go there and you shoot them there. Don't let them bite you. They're mean.
No, they'll kill you and then eat you.
Yeah.
I said, what happened to him? I said, the pigs ate him, the hogs ate him. That's a true story.
Well, so I got to bring you hunting with me so you can pull the pig off me.
Well, you forget that. If I'm pull the pig, I'll be sitting there. I said, I'll be trying to call 911. Jack's getting eaten by a pig. Y'all need to get out here real quick. I can't do nothing. So, Jack, thank you very much. And we'll be back next week, ladies and gentlemen, with another episode of Storytime with Dutch. Take care.
Let's finish. Will you do it one time for everybody? Let's finish the old way.
I want every real American within the sound of my voice to please rise. Put your hand over your heart and say along with us, we the people.
See
you next week.